Welcome to our first episode of Let's Talk About It Live, where we're going to deep dive into conversations women need to be having about their hormones, but probably are not. On this first episode, we're breaking down the different stages of hormone imbalances, how many women are impacted by hormone imbalances, why hormone imbalances are more common than ever, and the overlooked symptoms that so many women deal with every day. Joining us to navigate this conversation is someone I deeply respect who is truly passionate about educating and empowering women, Dr. Amber Grasse, founder of Healthy Home.
Oh, Lyndi, it's so wonderful to have you here with me today.
I'm so glad that you could join. So, Dr. Degrassi is certified in hormone health by the Institute. She's extensively trained by top hormone experts, and this week she's heading to Harvard Medical School for Women's Health and Menopause. Dr. Amber is truly envisioning and truly encapsulating this idea of educating women. She's a continuous learner. She's constantly finding ways to improve her own education so that she can share and empower others. And it's inspiring. It truly is. So thanks again, Amber, for being here on the Let's Talk About It live.
Oh, I love it. And I think this is so important to educate the women we love around the world about why hormone imbalance is so critical.
Okay, well, let's dive right in. The first one is a big one we want to talk about. Can you walk us through the different stages of hormone imbalance?
Yeah. There's four actual stages, which is surprising for most women to hear. The first stage is called premenopause. And that really starts when you first get your cycle. This is when going back to when you begin your PMS symptoms. And you stay in that premenopausal stage. That's where as you grow and you get into your 20s and you're very fertile. And it starts and continues until you start getting perimenopausal symptoms. And so perimenopause is a stage that happens around 10 years before you ever go into menopause. And it used to be 20, 30, 40 years ago, that wouldn't have happened until you're in your 40s. But now it's becoming younger and younger. And so women are getting into perimenopause in as young as their mid 30s. And, this is before menopause. This is the wild, fluctuation of your hormones. And it starts, you're still fertile. You still, people can still get pregnant and have babies, but you're getting irregular periods. You have anxiety. You can have hot flashes. You're experiencing less sleep. You're getting, brain fog and all these other symptoms. And you will stay in that perimenopausal stage until you reach menopause. And menopause is really one single day. People are like, what? It begins with one single day. And that means you haven't had your period or your cycle for 365 consecutive days. And in North America, the average age is approximately 51 years. But we're seeing women again go into that stage much, much younger. And of course, it's different for every female. And then you go into the next stage called postmenopause. And menopause, and as you just said, and then to postmenopause, and this is life after menopause. This is where your estrogen is lower and it impacts your bone density, your heart health. This is where you start having more, we match men in diseases. And so we like to say that this is where you want to focus on long-term hormone balance for well-being. And if we look at the world and we say the average female in North America is living to 81 years age, and we know that women are living upwards of 100 years of age, this stage is impacting hormonal imbalances over half of our lifespan. So it's so important for us to understand hormone imbalance.
Those stats are so mind blowing. So I have a little teenager at home, and I'm thinking, no one, when I was young, no one talked to me about these things, right? I'm now in my mid 40s. I'm finally having these conversations with my girlfriends and those that are also being, affected by all of this. And it's crazy to me that we never talked about it when we were young. And so I love that we're having this conversation. We're bringing this to life. We need women to know that we're here, that there's other women here that are experiencing these same things. So very excited. I'm going to dive us right into a little bit more about this conversation then. So tell me, how many women are actually impacted by perimenopause and menopause across the world?
Yeah, this number is mind blowing. So 2 million American women enter into menopause every single year. That's 6,000 women a day. We are talking a billion women worldwide. 1 billion women are going through these menopausal changes and premenopausal changes. By 2030, that is going to rise to 1.2 billion. And what you just said, Lyndi, is so important. We're not educating our women around the world about this. I mean, there is no conversation in sex education. We talk about getting your cycle, and that's it.
Yes.
Like they need to say that, you're gonna end up going into your 20s and your 30s are gonna be really fertile. And then guess what? You're gonna have these perimenopausal symptoms. And this is impacting 1 billion women around the world. And if we educated women that you are going to have some of these symptoms, like you may experience anxiety or hot sweats or fluctuations in these wild hormones, people would be more prepared and understanding instead of us misdiagnosing each other.
Mhm. It's so true. It's sad because I feel like it was always this idea of, well, it's just because you're a woman, right? You're feeling those things. You're exhausted, you're tired. And it's not fair. We need to talk about that it's hormone related and that there are solutions out there. And so, uh, yes, I think that you're spot on. And those stats are just, I'm in awe of not knowing that until now. So
Yeah.
that's bringing me to my next question. Why are hormone imbalances more common than ever?
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at the world we live in. It's very different from our grandmothers and our great grandmothers. We've got these endocrine disrupting chemicals, or they're called EDCs. These are man made and can be natural chemicals. And the danger is they mimic our hormones. They interrupt and they mimic the hormones in our body. And then they can give you this waterfall of all these impacts of hormonal disruption. I mean, we're talking about the parabens in our hair, our skincare, our makeup, our clothes, our food, our water. They're even in babies, toys, all the way down to our carpets. And we've heard of BPAs. BPAs are these chemicals that disrupt in our body. And so we'll go, oh, I'm not going to get these water bottles because they say they're BPA free. But they're in everything. When you go to the grocery store and you get a receipt, those are filled with BPAs. And it only takes seconds to get into our bloodstream. Right now, women are wearing over 500 toxic chemicals every single day. And most of us are unaware that we're doing it. It's in our clothes, it's in our water, our air, and as a result, our babies are being born with 200 toxic chemicals in the umbilical cord. And that's why education is so important. I mean, if you Google or look up the symptoms of bad estrogen, you're going to see all the symptoms of perimenopause and menopause are night sweats, anxiety, brain fog, weight gain. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And that's why we need to have solutions like balance. It's so important for us to be able to metabolize this bad estrogen out of our bodies so that our bodies can balance itself and that we can feel confident again in our health and in control of our own body and our symptoms.
Beautiful. You've said that so well. Um, I agree. I've started experiencing some of those symptoms. I've started looking at my own life and the surroundings around me and realizing before I even knew it how many toxins I'm taking in every single day. So many things that we can do to improve our health. It's why I love Healthy Homes Mission. They're tackling these things. They're pushing back against the norm, and I'm so excited to be a part of this. So you talked to us a little bit about the signs and symptoms of hormone imbalance. Is there anything else that you would add to that? I know you talked a little bit about anxiety. What about the ideas of just exhaustion and brain fog? And would you add anything else to that?
Yeah, you know what? Listen, 80% of women will have perimenopausal symptoms or menopausal symptoms. And it's being diagnosed wrong every year now. Like I always laugh because I say if I had 10 girlfriends, that we all sat together and we talked about what are your solutions? Well, I went to this naturopath, I went to this doctor, and every single person said something different. Oh, you're just aging. This is just normal. And I think it's become normal for women to suffer. You start when you're young and you get perimenopause and, or when you have your PMS symptoms as young back as your teenage years, women have been known to suffer. You're going to suffer when you go through childbirth. And so there's just not been enough education. And that's across the board. It's one of the reasons I started educating myself. It's like what you just said, Lyndi. You had experiences in your own body and you're like, okay, what's going on? That
Mhm.
was to me and I'm like, okay, I need to find out. And the more people I spoke to, the more confused I got. And and so I was like, okay, I need to understand what this is. And so I'm so happy that we're bringing some of these solutions. I mean, there can be upwards of 100 to 130 different symptoms. I mean, we're just being misdiagnosed.
Yeah.
Brain fog, you mentioned it, exhaustion.
Mhm.
It's supposed to live with always being tired. And we'll chalk it down to the women in this era just do too much. But it's so much more than that. It's the imbalance in our hormones, and we're gaining weight, our blood pressure's going up, cholesterol, hormone imbalance is a huge situation in our economy right now. It's costing billions of dollars to try and misdiagnose women everywhere, and we just want to feel good and strong and confident. And so that's why it's so important. I even heard somebody, Naomi Watts, she wrote a book, a really good book on menopause. And she said for 10 years, they misdiagnosed her. She would say every doctor, before she did a film, she had to get all of her reports done. And every time she would say, look, I've got, brain fog, I've got night sweats. And they're like, oh, you traveled too much. Oh, you drank something, you ate something wrong. And nobody ever told her perimenopause. I mean, this is supposed to be the most potent time of our life. This is our superpower. Think about it. We go through all these stages of what makes women so resilient and so strong. So I'm so happy that we're having this conversation.
Thank you so much for sharing. I love the topics we've covered today. We've just touched the surface of many things we could discuss about hormone imbalances. So I'm excited to continue this series as we move on to other questions. If you enjoyed what you're hearing, so reaching out to the audience now, if you enjoy what you heard, if you want to hear more from us, please give us a thumbs up, give us a heart in the comments. Feel free to ask questions that you'd like us to address on future episodes, and let us know that this is valuable for you. Thanks again to Dr. Amber. I can just feel from you how passionate you are, how empowering you are to women, and so excited and blessed to be in your life. And thank you again for joining us. And that's a wrap. Thanks, guys.
Oh, Lindy, loved having you. Thank you, everybody.